As you work on relaxing the body and dropping, mind chatter and things that right now are not necessary, notice what comes up. So notice if you easily go into that and are able to drop into this child's pose, or notice if there's some places, some amount of resistance that makes it a bit more challenging. And there's no rights or wrongs. You are using this to explore where you're at today. We'll take another breath in, another breath out. And then just beginning to find a little bit more action. So if you haven't already got your arms out, bring them out in front of you. And then begin to press down through your finger pads. So your palms slightly lift and maybe your forearms lift a bit also. So you're beginning to find also that action through your arms and through your shoulders. And then as you reach your fingers forward with a bit more action, draw your shoulder blades down towards your back ribs and towards your hips. Notice already the work that's happening here. And then begin to work as well with your legs. So any part of your legs that is in touch with ground, see if you can push into the ground. So kind of pushing away from it. So you might begin to feel your thighs engage, glute muscles engage some. Maybe you're pressing through your toes and you're finding that your toes stretch also. Maybe you're pressing through the tops of your feet, some through your shins and your knees. So notice now that you've gone from a child's pose that was really passive to quite an active pose. And maybe from the outside, it looks like not much has changed, but the feeling of the pose is completely different. Take another breath in, still finding action. Breath out, begin to draw the belly towards your spine, engaging through abdominal muscles. Take another inhale. And then as you exhale, soften. Soften everything. Once again, dropping those arms. Once again, maybe bending your elbows. Hands can grab onto opposite elbows. Dropping the head. Sinking those sit bones down. Relaxing through your toes. Another breath in. And another breath out. Nice job. And then reaching your arms out again. This time walking them all the way to the left side. See if you can bring your right hand over that left hand and maybe even grab onto any part of your left arm with your right hand and give a pull, pulling with your right arm, resisting with your left arm and keeping your sit bones in the same place. Notice the stretch through the right side of your body, breath in and breath out. And then walk those hands back through center and then all the way towards your right. Left hand now walks a little further. Maybe the hand comes on top of that right hand. Maybe left hand holds onto the right arm. And then you add a pull there, engaging through that biceps, through that shoulder, feeling a little extra stretch through the left side of the body. Sink your left sit bone down. Breathe in. And breathe out. And then walking those hands back through center. Take a moment here, reach those fingers a little further, and then begin to walk your hands back towards you, lifting that spine. And we're going to come all the way up to stand on the knees. So bring those knees hip width and come up onto your knees, onto your shins. If you need extra padding, you could roll your mat or plant a pillow under those knees. Your toes could be untucked or tucked, whatever feels best for you. And get your shoulders over those hips and those hips over those knees. With your next inhale, reach your arms overhead. And then as you exhale, lower the right hand behind you, maybe to the back of your right thigh, and then just reach up and over with your left. It doesn't have to be very much, it's early in practice. And then come back through center, both arms lift, and then left hand behind the thigh, and then push the thigh, hips forward as you reach up and slightly back with your right arm. Do that again. Inhale, coming back through center, neutral spine, right hand behind you. Maybe this time it goes down towards your calf and reach up and over with your left. A bit more of a back bend. Inhale, back through center. Use that lower belly. Exhale, left hand lowers again, back of thigh, maybe a little lower if that's available. Reaching over with your right. One more time each side. Back through center on the inhale. Exhale, right hand down, reach up and over, see what's available. Inhale, back through center. And left hand down, reaching up and over with your right. As you inhale, come back through center, lengthen, and on your exhale, lower your hands, coming straight into a table pose. So your hands under your shoulders, your knees under your hips. As you inhale, drop the belly, bring the chest forward, lift your gaze. And now on your exhale, round your spine, coming into cat pose, chin to your chest. Again, inhale, coming forward. Exhale, and rounding. One more, just like that. Inhale. And exhale as we round. Now finding a neutral spine and reaching your left leg out behind you. Lengthen it, reaching through those toes, through the heel. And then as you exhale, plant the ball of the foot. So getting a stretch through the back of that left ankle, the calf. Press through those hands, broaden that upper back, and then draw the belly towards your spine. Full breath in and full breath out. With your next inhale, left leg rises, and as you exhale, draw that knee into your chest, round your spine. Inhale, lengthen. Exhale, the left knee comes to the outside of your left elbow. Inhale, lengthen. Left knee crosses underneath your right elbow. Inhale, lengthen. On your exhale, left foot over towards the right side. Plant the ball of the foot and push through the heel. Draw the inner thighs towards one another. Draw the hip bones to point down or towards one another. And then draw the belly towards your spine. See if you can feel a stretch through outer left hip. Breathe in and breathe out. And then as you inhale, return that leg through center, reach it up, and on your exhale, back into table pose. We'll do the same thing with the right side. Right leg rises, inhale. And then on your exhale, plant the ball of the foot. Push through the heel, pausing here. Strong right leg. So engage through your quad also. Think about kneecap lifting towards the hip. Then draw belly to spine and broaden your upper back. Breath in and breath out. One more right here. And then as you inhale, right leg rises. And on your exhale, knee to chest, round your spine, maybe even knee to nose. Inhale, lengthen. Exhale, right knee to the outside of your right elbow. Inhale, lengthen. Exhale, right knee crosses, left elbow. Inhale, lengthen. Keep lengthening and now cross that right foot over towards the left side. Plant the ball of the foot. Push through the heel. Draw that right hip bone in. Breath in. Breath out. Keep pushing through those hands and don't let only the wrist take all the weight. Push through the base of your fingers and the ends of your fingers. Another breath. And then with your next inhale, right leg lengthens, reach it out behind you and return to your table pose on the exhale. Keep your knees and hips in line and then walk your hands wide and forward, coming into puppy pose. So that chest is going to drop towards the floor. Head maybe also comes towards the floor. Imagine a weight in the middle of the chest, pulling that chest down. So a stretch for the chest, for your armpits, those shoulder blades squeezing towards each other. Those sit bones lifting, so maybe depending on how those hamstrings are, maybe you're feeling a stretch at the top of those hamstrings. Breathe in and breathe out. With your next inhale, come all the way onto the belly. We're coming into cobra pose, so your hands are going to be under your shoulders, your elbows squeezing towards your rib cage, and then engage through your legs. With your next inhale, lift your chest. Try not to use too much your hands. Engage through upper back, through back body. Exhale and lower. Do that again. Inhale, lift. Exhale, lower. And inhale, lift. Gaze stays down, back of the neck stays long, and on your exhale, lower. Tuck your toes, come through all fours, and let's go all the way into downward facing dog. Lifting those sit bones, lifting those knees, maybe pedaling the feet, lifting and lowering the heels. And maybe moving those hips from side to side. Breath in and breath out. And then finding stillness, and with your next inhale, come out into a plank pose, shoulders coming over wrists. And then as you exhale, move back into downward facing dog, sending those sit bones up and back. 2 more times, just like that, with your own breath. Coming forward, moving back. Maybe as you move through these down dogs and planks, you're giving your toes a bit of a stretch. So as you come into plank, you might be able to come onto the tiptoes and then move back. And you're coming more onto the balls of the feet, and maybe even heels drop a little further. We'll meet back in downward facing dog, and then use your next inhale to lift your right leg towards the ceiling. So start first with square hips, so neutral hips. And then with your next exhale, begin to open up the right hip towards the right side. See if you can do it first with your knee extended, and then bend your right knee and point your right knee towards the ceiling. Pause here, breath in, try not to change your torso, so shoulders are still pointing down, square towards the mat. Breath out. One more inhale. And exhale. Now return your hips to neutral, extend your right leg out behind you, and on your exhale, step that foot and plant it between your hands. Maybe it gets there one step, maybe it takes a few. Hands could be on blocks here, and then as you inhale, drop your hips, lift your chest. Feel a stretch through the front of that left hip, and on your exhale, send your hips back, right hamstring stretch. Move like that 2 more times. Forward on the inhale. Back as you exhale. And inhale, coming forward. And exhale, moving back. Now with your next inhale, bend into that front knee. Lower the back knee to the mat. Untuck the toes. And then we're going to come all the way into this low lunge. So hands can come to your thigh. Maybe you stay here, push the thigh away. Maybe if you feel stable, your arms lift all the way up towards the ceiling. Engage through your left glute and think about pushing your left hip forward. And then finding a little scissor action with your legs. So as if you were trying to draw your right heel back and push your left knee forward. Breath in and breath out. Take another inhale. And then as you exhale, lower those hands to the mat, frame that front foot, tuck your back toes, and make your way back into downward facing dog. Take a moment here, breath in and breath out. With your next inhale, come out into plank pose. And this time we're going to lower down. You can do this lowering your knees first, or if you can keep that belly tucking in, you could keep your knees lifted. Bend your elbows and slowly we'll meet all the way on the belly. Cobra pose. As you inhale, lift the chest, keep the gaze down. As you exhale, lower. 2 more times. Inhale, lift. Engage through your legs. Exhale, lower. Last one. Inhale, lift. And then from here, tuck your toes through all fours and back into downward facing dog. Breath in and breath out. We're going to do these same movements now on the left side. So with your next inhale, your left leg rises. And first, keep your hips square, just like we did on the other side. Okay, so your hip bones are still pointing down. And then begin to peel that left hip bone open. So you begin to open the hips towards the left side. Leg is still extended, and then bend your left knee. Heel is dropping towards the glute, and your left knee is reaching up towards the ceiling. Any amount, so direction of movement. Don't worry if it's not pointing directly at the ceiling. Breath in wherever you are, and breath out. One more. Inhale and exhale. And then as you inhale, straightening that leg out behind you, square the hips once again. And then we're going to step that left foot forward, planting it between the hands. Once you've got it planted, back knee stays lifted. You're on the ball of that back foot. And we're going to drop the hips, bring the chest forward, lift the gaze as you inhale. Exhale, straighten that front leg. Hamstring stretch now for this left side. And then again, forward on the inhale. Right hip flexor stretch. And back as you exhale. One more, just like that. Breath in. And breath out. And then with your next inhale, bend into that front knee. This time lowering that back knee down. Coming into this low lunge. And again, perfectly fine to stay with your hands down on your blocks or on the mat. If it's available, hands to your thigh. You'll give a little push to that thigh, finding a bit more lift through your chest. Really good here if you can engage through your right glute. So squeeze. And then maybe your arms reach up towards the ceiling. We'll take 3 cycles of breath. So expansive inhale. Exhale, engage, lower belly to spine, squeeze that right glute. And maybe again you find that scissoring of your legs, that left heel draws back, that right knee pushes forward. Another inhale, another exhale. Last one, breath in. And then as you exhale, lowering those hands, plant them, frame that front foot, tuck your back toes, and all the way back into downward facing dog. Take a breath in, and take a breath out. One more inhale, and exhale. Okay, so from here, we're going to play a bit. So we're going to try to jump those feet into a squat at the top of the mat, okay? So first, take a full breath in, lift your heels. Exhale, bend your knees. Imagine your knees hovering over the mat. Look towards your fingers, and then give yourself a jump forward. Feet to the outsides of your hands, okay? See if you got that, and we're going to do this a couple more times. So make your way back into downward facing dog, and you could go back into downward facing dog with a jump or 1 foot at a time. And then just take a moment in your down dog, breath in, breath out. Now, on your inhale, lift onto the balls of the feet, bend your knees, look forward, give yourself that push forward. Come into that squat, feet to the outsides of your hands. Nice job. And then bring yourself back into downward facing dog. And then this is the moment of truth. We're going to stay in that squat, okay? So breath in, lift those heels onto the balls of the feet. Look forward, bend your knees, and step, hop, feet to the outsides of your hands. So once your feet are to the outsides of your hands could stay down. See if you can drop your sit bones and then wiggle from side to side with your hips. So a little movement here. And squats for some of us can be really intense. So always, coming in and out of it is much better than just pushing through it, right? And then not wanting to do it ever again because it was such an amount of suffering that we can't bear it. So in and out, take the pressure off, come back in, things like that. Move from side to side. If stillness is better for you, stay in stillness. We'll take 3 more breaths. And 1 more inhale wherever you are. And then on your exhale, if your hands are lifted, plant them in front of your feet and then gently lift your hips. Bring your feet to hip width. Big toes a bit closer than your heels, and then come all the way into a forward fold. Maybe you're holding onto opposite elbows, or you bring those arms behind you and hold onto opposite elbows behind your legs. Encourage now some internal rotation to happen through your thighs. So inner thighs are moving towards the back of your mat. Allow the head to drop. Breath in and breath out. 1 more inhale and exhale. And then release those elbows if you had them. Bring hands to your hips, a bend in those knees, and slowly, vertebra stacking over vertebra, we're coming up to stand. Mountain pose at the top of your mat. Arms by your side, palms facing forward. Notice this mountain pose. I think it's the first standing position since we started class. So allow those shoulders to drop. Allow your body to get used to standing for a moment. Breathe in and breathe out. With your next inhale, arms are going to go wide and all the way overhead. And then as you exhale, lower your right hand down and reach up and over with your left side stretch. Come back through center, inhale, and then take it over to the other side as you exhale. Back through center, inhale. On your exhale, left foot is going to step back, and we're coming into warrior 2. So planting that back foot, bending into your front knee, and then reaching your arms forward and back. Your feet are on the same track, heel aligning with arch of foot. Send a bit more weight into that back leg. We usually tend to go forward. So as if you were being pulled slightly back so your shoulders are over your hips. And then draw the belly towards the spine and think about dropping tailbone. Strong through that front leg. With your next inhale, reverse warrior. Reaching up and back. Pausing here. Breath in and breath out. Another inhale. And as you exhale, come all the way into side angle, forearm to thigh or to the inside of that right leg, left arm by your ear. Breath in and breath out. With your next inhale, coming up, straightening that front leg and coming into triangle pose, hinge through your right hip, reach forward and then lower the hand. Opposite arm can go up towards the ceiling. Maybe you turn the palm out and drop that arm behind you. Breath in and breath out. 1 more inhale and exhale. With your next inhale, arm reaches up and rising the torso. Come back into your warrior 2. With your next exhale, cartwheel the hands to the inside of that front foot, coming into lizard pose. So you're coming onto the ball of that back foot, all 10 toes up, pointing forward. Pausing, breathe in and breathe out. So for some of you, depending if your hands are already down, you might be able to bend into your elbows. You're not coming all the way down onto the forearm, but just a bend of the elbows as if you were lowering down from a plank pose. See if you can still keep your right knee drawing towards your right shoulder. Pause, breath in, and breath out. If you had a bend in your elbows, straighten, keep your left hand down, and this time right arm sweeps up, opening into a twist towards the right side. Breath in and breath out. One more inhale. And then as you exhale, lowering your right hand now to the outside of your right foot. So you're coming into a regular lunge and then sending your right foot all the way back into a three-legged dog, reaching that right foot towards the ceiling. Bending the right knee and finding again that opening through your right hip. Think about your right knee reaching up towards the ceiling. Full breath in and full breath out. One more inhale and exhale. With your next inhale, straighten that right leg out behind you and then lower it back down, downward facing dog. Pause, breath in and breath out. We're going to make our way to the top of the mat. So as we did before, we're going to hop those feet to the outer edges, to the outsides of the hands. So just like we did before, but we'll only do it one time. So when you're ready, inhale, lift those heels, bend into those knees, look forward, and then hop feet to the outsides of your hands. Pause in your squat for a moment. Again, a little movement, stillness, or maybe coming up and down, 3 cycles of breath. We're really getting into those hips. If you are in your squat, press through the pinky toe side of your feet, so encouraging your knees to go wide and back, and then lift that spine. One more breath wherever you are. And then with your next inhale, hands drop. Gently lift those hips, bring your feet back to hip width. And then give yourself here a counter pose, a fold forward, and think about that internal rotation through your thighs. Sometimes it might be helpful to bring your hands behind you, grab the inner thighs, and then pull those inner thighs back and out. And then pause, breath in, and breath out. One more. And then releasing elbows, maybe arms hang, head hangs, and slowly, with a bend in those knees, we make our way up to stand. Give your shoulders a roll once you get to the top. Arms by your side, mountain pose. Breath in and breath out. As you inhale, arms wide, reach them up. On your exhale, left arm down, side stretch. Back through center, inhale. All the way to the other side, exhale. Back through center, inhale. We're going into warrior 2. Now it's the right foot that's going to step back. Once you get there, align, take a moment. Notice where your weight is. Notice if you've got a tendency to go forward, and then pull yourself back slightly. Engage through that back leg. We usually forget about the back leg. We usually kind of focus on the front, and we dump all the weight into that front foot. And we forget that we can use that back leg. When you're ready, reverse warrior, front palm turns up and back. Get that length through the left side of the torso. And then as you exhale, come through warrior 2 and come all the way into your side angle, reaching arm. With your next inhale, rising all the way up, straightening that front leg, triangle pose, hinging through that left hip, reach wherever your hand gets to. And then maybe that top arm drops behind you, but turn your palm. That usually allows that arm to drop behind you with a, more of a kind of nicer alignment for the shoulder. Usually feels a bit better if you've turned the palm. Breath in and breath out. One more inhale and exhale. And then if your arm was behind you, reach it. And then rising up, bend into that knee. You're back in your warrior two. And now as you exhale, we're sending those hands to the inside of that left foot, coming into lizard pose on this side. So you're spinning onto the ball of that right foot, pressing back through the heel. And then don't let the hips kind of drop completely. So keep some engagement through that right glute and through the core. So kind of almost like trying to dome slightly that upper back. Okay. Strong through your left leg too. And then you could stay here. Hands can also be on blocks here, of course. You could also find a bend in those elbows, but keep it active rather than just rounding and dropping the head. See if you can keep reaching the head forward away from that back heel. Breathe in and breathe out. Another inhale and another exhale. If your elbows were bent, let's straighten them, keeping your right hand planted. Left arm is going to go up towards the ceiling and torso is going to open up towards the left. Coming into a twist. Keep that right glute engaged. Keep pushing through that right heel. Keep the bend in your left knee. Breath in and breath out. One more inhale. As you exhale, left hand lowers, this time framing that front foot. And we're going to send it all the way back into a three-legged dog, lifting that left leg up towards the ceiling. Dropping that right heel, a little bend in your right knee, always welcome. And then bend into that left knee, opening up that left hip. Breath in and breath out. One more. Inhale and exhale. Straightening that left leg behind you and then lowering that foot back, downward facing dog. From your downward facing dog, come out into a plank pose. Inhale. And as you exhale with control, lowering all the way down to the belly. This time for your cobra, it's like a variation of cobra. Those hands are going to come wide, so probably off your mat, planting the fingertips, and then palms are lifted. See if you can lift your elbows up towards the ceiling. Your gaze is down, and then as you inhale, lift that torso. Okay. And now from here, on the exhale, I'll face the screen, so it might show better. What we're going to do is we're going to drop the left shoulder towards the mat as we turn the gaze towards the right. And then inhale back through center. And then see if you can drop your right shoulder towards the mat as you turn your gaze towards the left. And like that, inhale center. Exhale, left shoulder drops, turning your gaze to the right. Inhale center. And then right shoulder drops, turning the gaze to the left. Coming back through center on the inhale. And then as you exhale, think about long spine. Reach your chest forward and down to lower all the way down. Arms come in front of you. Maybe you hold on to opposite elbows. And rest your forehead on those forearms. Relax your legs, heels out. Wiggle your hips from side to side. Take a full breath in into that belly. And a long breath out, drawing the belly away from the mat. See if you can find 2 more breaths just like that. And then bringing those hands once again under your shoulders, coming through all fours, tucking your toes, and finding downward facing dog. And make your down dog a bit shorter, and then walk your feet a bit wider, maybe to the outer edges of your mat. And hopefully, or see if you can get your heels down onto the ground so the whole foot, both feet are well planted. More weight is going into your legs than into those arms. And then allow your chest to drop a bit more towards the floor. So again, feeling those shoulder blades coming a bit closer towards one another. So usually we'll only allow that chest to drop this much when there's more weight in the legs, right? When we're in that regular down dog, the arms need to be more engaged. So then dropping the chest between or towards the floor is not that helpful, okay? Because you're dumping a lot of tension and weight into the shoulders. But here, since the legs are taking most of the weight, you might be able to drop the chest just a bit more and let those shoulder blades come a bit closer together. Another breath. And then let's use the next inhale to walk those hands towards the feet, coming into a wide leg forward fold, holding onto opposite elbows. Breath in and breath out. And then use your inhale to slowly rise up, bend in those knees, but keep your feet wide. Coming all the way up, giving your shoulders a roll, bring them up by your ears, and then release them down the back. As you inhale, reach your arms overhead. And then on your exhale, right hand down, side stretch. Inhale, coming back through center. And left arm down, other side, exhale. Inhale, back through center. And bringing those hands behind you, interlace them at your lower back. Open chest, inhale. And then as you exhale, with a bend in those knees, fold forward. And then maybe those hands go up towards the ceiling, or maybe they drop some overhead. Breath in and breath out. One more inhale and exhale. And then releasing those hands with your next inhale, walking those hands forward. And find yourself in your regular downward facing dog. So bring your feet back to hip width. Send your sit bones up and back. So we're going to come into a pigeon pose. If you know that pigeon pose facing the mat is not helpful for your knees, try and do figure 4 lying on your back or in a seated position. So we'll start with the right side. As you inhale, right leg is going to rise. On your exhale, bend that knee, opening up the hip, knee towards the ceiling, just like we were doing earlier. Take a full breath in. And then with your next exhale, send your right knee towards your right wrist, and then a little wider. So you're bringing it towards the outer edge of your mat. Once you've planted your shin, and some of you will plant it diagonally, usually that's best, and then lengthen your left leg out behind you. You want to try and keep your hips square, so try not to drop into that right sit bone on the ground. Try to keep your hips level. Some of you will stay here. This will be plenty. Make sure that there's no pain in that right knee. Some of you will lift a bit more. You could walk your hands to the outer hips and find a bit more of a back bend. If you're doing the back bend, you'll find that engaging through your left glute will be most helpful and supportive. We're going to take a full breath in. And then with the exhale, if it's available, we're going to walk those hands forward and come into a forward fold. But think length first and then down. Your arms could walk in front of you, any amount. You could also bend your elbows. You could also plant your forearms on a block. Rest your forehead on those forearms. See where you're at. And again, there shouldn't be any pain in that right knee. Try to draw your right hip slightly back. Bring your left hip slightly forward. Breath in and breath out. One more inhale and exhale. If you were folded, come back onto those hands. We're coming straight into that downward facing dog once again. So tuck your back toes, lift that back knee, lift your hips, maybe send your right leg out behind you, and then lower that right foot back to the mat. Prepare for your pigeon pose now on the left side. Left leg is going to rise. Bend that knee, open up the hip for a moment here. Take a breath in. And then on your exhale, guide that left knee towards your left wrist and a bit wider. Your shin comes a little up, but you can keep it diagonal. And then slide your right leg back. And so you want to find length and space in the front of that right hip. Engage through that right glute. Press a bit through that left leg. And maybe your hands come to the outer hips. And you find a bit more lift through your torso. So it's a bit more of an active pigeon pose first. And then walk your hands forward. And wherever you reach, pause there. Maybe chest all the way down to the floor. Maybe halfway. We'll find a bit more passive posture through the body, a little closer to the ground, and encouraging some softness through your jaw and your eyes. A breath in and a breath out. Let's do 2 more breaths. And then if you had any amount of fold, begin to bring that torso back up. Plant your hands. We're going to come out of it just the same way we did on the other side, tucking the back toes, lifting that back knee, sending that left leg up and back, and then lowering that left foot down, back into downward facing dog. Take an inhale. Take an open mouth exhale. And then walk those feet towards your hands, meeting in a forward fold. And right from here, we're going to come down to the mat. So see if you can bend through your knees. Get your sit bones as close to your heels as available. See if you can do this without your hands. No problem if the hands need to plant. And then get those sit bones onto your mat. We're going to bring the soles of the feet together. The knees are going to go wide. Your hands around your ankles. Lengthen up the spine. Draw shoulder blades down the back. Breath in. On your exhale, maybe hinging through the hips, forward and down. Pause, breath in. And breath out. One more, just like that. Inhale. And exhale. And then with your next inhale, lifting that torso. See if this is available. So it might not work for everyone, and if it doesn't, don't worry. Just bring your knees up. But see if you could lower all the way to the mat with your legs just as they are. So rounding through that spine, eventually getting that back body down. Then bringing those knees in and all the way into your chest. Rock a bit from side to side. And then let's lift those legs all the way towards the ceiling. You could use your hands to support those legs and then give a little rotation to your ankles, one direction and the other. A little wiggle to your toes. And then find some stillness here. Maybe your arms also lift. And then allow some softness to happen through your legs and through your arms. So you want to stack your joints more or less so that they feel supported. And you're not trying to reach with your feet or with your hands. So your fingers are slightly curled. There's a little bend into your elbows and knees. And you're really feeling your hips and your shoulders dropping into the ground. This is also a good moment to lengthen the back of the neck, chin slightly towards the chest. Maybe you're closing your eyes, and with each exhale, you feel your body get closer to the ground. Maybe with eyes closed, you get to a place in which you don't even realize that your legs and your arms are lifted. It's almost that floating sensation happening. Let's take another breath in and another breath out. And then we're just going to lower gradually, intentionally. So lower first one arm, and you could rest that hand on your belly. And then lower the other arm, resting that hand also on the belly. And then bend your right knee. Let your heel drop towards your glute. And then bend your left knee, left heel towards the glute. And then lower your right foot to the mat, knee is bent. And then lower your left foot to the mat, knee also bent. And then just walk your feet a bit wider and let them rest against one another. Make sure the spine is supported on the ground. And then take a moment, and if there's any other movement that you need, engage in it for 3 to 5 breaths, with the aim at the end to find stillness, to find comfort and ease. If you are moving, eventually you're looking for that comfortable position. And for that, you might need extra clothing or a blanket or a pillow, any other prop. And then whatever that position that feels comfortable you choose, see if you can stay still. And we're going to stay in stillness for these last few minutes of practice. And we're also going to be quiet. Nothing to do right now. Now, without judgment, notice if you were able to drop into not doing kind of easily, naturally. Notice if it was challenging. Notice if you were getting pulled in different directions or not. Notice if there was a lot of thinking or little thinking. No rights or wrongs, no goods or bads. Just an opportunity to learn something about you at this moment. And then return your attention to your breath. Take a deeper inhale. Take a longer exhale. And then use that breath to gently wiggle your toes and wiggle your fingers. Maybe a little movement through ankles and wrists. Maybe a movement through the neck, chin from one side to the other. Taking your time, maybe those knees come into your chest. And if you're on your back, you might roll onto one side. Pause here to support your head. Take a deep breath in. And take a long breath out. And then let's make our way up to find a comfortable seat. And we'll end practice together. Hands can rest at your heart. You can find a lifted spine. Maybe your eyes stay closed. And let's acknowledge the practice. Let's acknowledge ourselves for practicing. Let's acknowledge those who practice with us, not only today, any other time. And then let's acknowledge all those that in one way or another make it possible. And we'll end with a word that means that the light in me recognizes and honors the light in you. Namaste.